on this extra special episode of MythBusters.
I expect you guys to get to the bottom of this once and for all and then report back to me.
We're on it.
At the president's request, Adam and Jamie breathe new light into the myth of Archimedes' solar ray.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That's perfect.
Finding out if supersizing their mirror military
Do you want to save your home city?
can catch the sun's rays and set a boat ablaze.
These mirrors are really intense.
That's the spirit, soldiers.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Tori, and Grant
Red bean, stop.
take on a fiendish filmic flip, investigating if a superhuman punch
Trigger away.
can make an SUV somersault head over wheels.
There's so much that could go wrong on this.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Oh, it's scientific!
and Jamie Heineman.
Is that hot enough for you?
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Joining them, Grant Imahara. He's alive! Carrie Byron
I was less excited after my first kiss.
and Tori Belleci.
This is real science.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, the MythBusters have a viewer request straight from the top.
You know, some viewers may be watching us and thinking, the boys are standing on a very accurate set of the White House library.
But they'd be wrong.
Indeed, they would be, because this is not a set. This is the real deal, because on today's special episode of MythBusters, the myth we're busting comes courtesy of a very special guest.
In fact, here he is.
Hey guys, how are you?
Very good.
Good to see you. Welcome to the White House.
Thank you, Mr. President.
It is a thrill to have you here.
So what can we do for you?
Well, I am a big fan of MythBusters.
Really?
I am, and so are the girls. Partly because we are just fascinated by science. You guys make it fun and exciting and interesting, and occasionally you blow things up, which is always cool. But I have a personal interest in this as president because nothing's more important to our country's future than getting young people engaged in math and science. A lot of the challenges that we face as a country are going to depend on how engaged young people are in science, and so I'm just thrilled that you guys do such a great job making it fun.
Thank you, sir. That means a great deal to us.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, I do know that science requires a lot of trial and error. Part of what MythBusters is about is testing out various hypotheses, and I think that we've got a big one that hasn't been thoroughly tested.
Which one is that?
Well, it is Archimedes' solar ray.
Well, that is a classic.
It is a classic, and so I'm hoping that we can take one more crack at it.
Okay.
The story goes that Archimedes designed a solar weapon that focused the sun's rays with such ferocity it set an invading Roman navy ablaze. But when the MythBusters duplicated his ancient design,
It's 280 degrees.
it failed to fuel a fire.
I'm standing right in it, and I'm not dead yet.
So they reloaded the ray with the help of MIT and 300 mirrors.
Look at that.
But that still didn't set this myth alight,
I see a little smoke, but I've seen worse than that before.
which leaves Adam with a burning question.
If you don't mind me saying so, sir, what do you think we actually got wrong on this?
Well, there's one thing you didn't do.
Well, we did use a giant solar mirror array.
And we did use 300 bronze mirrors on shelving units that were aimable.
True.
But we didn't use, what, manpower?
Exactly.
And the Greeks had plenty of access to manpower, so if we could get a whole bunch of people, like 500 people, each with their own mirror, we might just be able to test this.
So how do you want us to do that?
Well, I'm going to leave that up to you guys. You're the experts. I'm going to stay here in Washington. I've got a little bit of business to attend to, but I expect you guys to go back to San Francisco, figure this out, get to the bottom of this once and for all, and then report back to me.
We're on it.
The presidential challenge has been issued, and it'll take a crack team of MythBusters to mastermind this one. Not only will they need 500 stand-in soldiers armed with 500 mirrors, they'll have to find a way to focus 500 beams into a spot small enough to fire up this myth.
The pressure's on, man.
It's quite a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking back to the first time we shot this and the trouble we had getting even 12 people to aim their mirrors on a single spot. Who's that? I think that the biggest single challenge we're going to face in this story is getting all 500 of our soldiers' mirrors aimed on the smallest possible target.
Yeah, we need to come up with some sort of a system, a aiming device.
Yeah, we do. Have you got any ideas?
I do, actually.
I've got a couple myself.
Well, why don't we mock it up in scale and see which one works best?
Perfect, let's do it.
From previous experience, the guys know that the tighter the focal point, the hotter the temperature, and the more chance of flame. So they divide and conquer to take aim on the aim in small scale.
If you're out in the wild with a signal mirror and you're trying to signal, let's say, a passing aircraft, the way you do it is you sight the aircraft up in the sky and then you put your hand directly underneath it. And then you use the signal mirror to sweep the sun across your hand and thus across that passing aircraft.
Adam's idea is to create a hand substitute to wave his beam across.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, isn't it, little Jamie?
Right down there.
Meanwhile, Jamie is gunning for inspiration.
Now, when I think of aiming and targets, of course, I think of guns. They have gun sights, one here and one here, and if you line those two things up with your bullseye, you know your bullet's going to hit it, more or less.
Jamie's no-fuss solution is a pencil and putty, but unfortunately, there's a problem.
Now let's just see what happens when I move the sun. That's not working. This aiming thing is fine, except for one fatal problem, and that is that the sun moves. Its relationship with this mirror, the sight, and the target is constantly changing. So something as simple as a gun sight on a pistol, it's not going to help us out here.
Jamie's system may be shot to pieces, but Adam's reticule has led him to another discovery.
I don't want to build 500 of these, so I'm thinking actually about stringing some material across the aimers.
It's literally a eureka moment as Adam ditches individual aimers.
Wait a minute, netting.
For something altogether more communal.
Yeah. I think I found the perfect aiming system for our 500 soldiers, and it is stretching a net in front of them along the shoreline between them and the boat. All they have to do is line up and aim their mirror at the spot on the net that they can see the enemy boat, and they should be hitting that boat. It's cheap, it's easy. I think it's ready for a medium-scale test. Don't you, little Jamie? I do.
Next, Cary, Grant, and Tori take on a fiendish flip.
So while Adam and Jamie are doing a myth about an ancient warrior, we're going to do one about a modern one.
How so?
Well, we're doing a myth from Hellboy, which combines two of my favorite things.
Robots and math?
Legos and Spice Girls? No, crashes and physics.
I know the scene you're talking about. This is when Hellboy is walking across the road, a car is coming straight at him, and to stop the car, he punches the hood, causing the car to flip over his head.
Exactly. His punch transfers the forward linear momentum of the car into circular motion.
It's all so easy for Hellboy.
Red bean, stop!
One hammer blow to the hood, and the SUV somersaults head over wheels. But are the physics of this flip true, or is it just Hollywood hype?
Okay, there's two problems that we need to solve straight up. First of all, how do we measure the impact of a punch of a mythical creature? And secondly, how do we punch a car without running over what's punching it?
Well, one way to get around the second problem is we could just drop a weight from a crane. I mean, I could build some kind of giant steel fist. When the car's underneath it, we'll release it, and it'll hit the front end, bam.
And the first problem?
Well, essentially what we're doing here is creating a pivot at the front end. So if we start out by finding out how much weight it takes to make that touch the ground, I bet we could calculate the rest.
Sounds like a good place to start.
So to replicate the diabolical powers of this punch, they'll need a crane to lift a giant steel fist of fury. Then they'll drop it 20 feet onto an oncoming SUV, ground the nose, and possibly flip it just like Hellboy. But that's one heck of a punch. So first they need to know just how hefty the fist they drop needs to be.
This looks like the place.
Yeah, man. Cranes, cranes, cranes.
So in order to flip a vehicle, you need to do two things. One, stop the forward movement, and two, drive the front end into the ground, forming a pivot point to flip over. So that's why we're here at Doc Bailey's Crane Yard. We're gonna find out how much mass it takes to ground the front end of this vehicle.
So the way that we're gonna do that is drop heavier and heavier weights on the front end of our vehicle until the nose is actually touching the ground. Once we have that, we'll know exactly how much force our fist needs to punch with.
And they're starting with 1,200 pounds.
Okay, so the whole goal here is to get this edge down into the ground. Now, the standard ground clearance on this vehicle is 18 inches. We have gotten it to about 12. So we need to move on to something larger.
Oh, great. Look what it did to the hood.
That's why we can never have anything nice.
That wasn't that nice to begin with.
That's true.
Next up, they lower 3,000 pounds.
Okay.
All right, run. This is almost the exact weight of the vehicle itself.
I got 9 inches.
But we're still not smashed into the ground.
To get the nose to the ground, they ramp up the weight to a mighty 5,000 pounds.
This is definitely gonna scratch the paint. Run!
At more than the weight of the car, unsurprisingly, 5,000 pounds does more than just scratch the paint.
Look at that. That is all 5,000 pounds on the front end of our vehicle, and the front end is not going any lower than that.
Yeah, in that configuration, we would have locked up the tires, bottomed out the suspension, and stopped our forward movement. I think we achieved our goal here.
The crane takes care of the heavy lifting. While it's over to Grant and his formidable formula.
So we've got our weight of 5,000 pounds. That's what it's gonna take to drive the front end of this vehicle down 18 inches into the ground. That gives us 7,500 foot-pounds of work. Now we take that, plug it into our big hairy equation, choose a height of about 20 feet to drop the fist from, something manageable. That gives us an approximate weight of the fist of 1,500 pounds to produce this effect. Oh.
That's the mass of our infernal impact. So now it's over to Tori to create this fist of fury.
What I have here is a 5-foot-tall, 10-inch diameter steel rod. Now this is what we're gonna raise up 20 feet and drop it on the front end of the vehicle to see if we can get that car to flip.
Yep, it's taken a lot of welding, angle grinding, and polishing to make a fist of 1,500 pounds of steel. But finally, the Fist of Doom is ready. At the president's request.
I think that we've got a big one that hasn't been thoroughly tested.
Which one is that?
It is Archimedes' solar ray.
The MythBusters are going back to the looking glass.
I think it's ready for prime time. Don't you, little Jamie? I do.
But before their 500 fighters, armed with 500 mirrors, take aim, first, there's pause for reflection.
Now, before we go and implement this aiming system times 500 soldiers, we want to make sure that it works. So we're going to test it in small scale up here on Jamie's roof, and that's where this scrappy band of Greek soldiers comes in. They're going to use their mirrors to try and see just how good this system is. You guys ready? I think they're ready.
I'll be standing right here with my fire extinguisher just in case. And when I give the go-ahead, our 12 mirror holders will have 60 seconds by my stopwatch to redirect the energy of the sun through their mirrors towards the red dot in the middle of the target. At that point, we'll take 2 readings.
This is our stills camera. We'll be photographing both tests with this to find and compare the smallest possible surface area of the beams on the target. This is our thermal imaging camera. It's going to be reading the temperature of both tests, and we're going to look for the tests that give us the hottest and smallest beam.
Okay, no aiming device. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
The volunteers swing into action, attempting to focus on the target 100 feet away. And for this control, they'll be aiming without a net.
Try and shake your beam. That's often a really good way to figure out where it is.
30 seconds. Come on, what are you guys doing? Light my fire, come on.
But with 12 beams all vying for the same target, it's hard to tell who's hitting the spot.
You guys are still moving around. Come on, zone it in, dial it in.
And after 60 seconds,
And mirrors down. That wasn't very good at all.
the 2 cameras get the shot.
Here's what I see when I look at both the stills and the thermal imaging camera on test 1. I see in the stills camera a beam that's really diffuse, covering this whole area. On the thermal camera, I see the whole thing being warm. I want to see only this spot warm, not all of this. That's going to give me the chance of fire.
So, will the addition of the netting help our reflective regiment? Cue test 2.
All right, now it's time to find out if this net's going to help their aiming at all. Are you guys ready? Yeah! That's what I like to hear.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
Mirrors up. Now, each of you can see your mirror's beam on the net. You want to line up the spot you're making on the net with the heart of the soldier.
30 seconds.
Now remember, the smaller the focus,
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. Focus in like that. That's perfect.
the more concentrated the beam and the more heat.
I can feel that. The black is way too hot to touch.
Once again, at the 60-second mark, the data is recorded.
And you're done.
Mirrors down. All right, now we've got 2 tests under our belt, and here's the comparison that I want you to see. First, the stills camera, test 1 and test 2. Check that out. Test 2, a lot more focused, but that is not the one I want to show you. Now for the real fire. Check out the thermal imaging camera, test 1 and test 2. Look at that. Look how tight that spot is in test 2. That's the kind of fire I'm talking about. That's telling me that this system works. Well, it looks to me like this stuff works.
It did help their aim.
It did. Let's start production on 500 mirrors.
All right, let's see if we can flip a car with a punch.
We're out at the Alameda runway to test whether a superhero punch can flip a car. Now, we decided to just go for it because it's really hard to scale things like gravity. So we're taking our 1,500-pound steel fist. I can't wait to see that thing come down. Dropping it on a car and seeing where we need to go from there.
And here's how it's going to go down.
This car is going to be towed 30 miles an hour to...
Here, where there's a pressure sensor on the ground. The car will hit the pressure sensor, that will trigger the quick release and drop the fist at the perfect time.
And when that fist comes crashing down, it will strike the perfect spot, the front end of the vehicle, with a huge amount of force. And if this myth is true, we should see that vehicle flip end over end.
This experiment all comes down to levers. The impact on the edge of the hood should cause the car to pivot over the fulcrum of the front wheels. And then the forward momentum of the car should propel the rear end up and over. Well, that's the theory.
But you know what? In the movie, the car's only traveling 30 miles an hour. I just don't see this being enough energy to get the thing all the way over and flipped. I just don't see it happening.
All is about to be revealed as it's time for some flippin' fun.
You guys ready?
Born ready.
All right, this is car flip. Get it up to 30 miles an hour. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, go.
We're moving.
Here we go.
Come on.
Here it comes. It looks good, looks good. Trigger away. Oh!
It just wouldn't be MythBusters if it worked perfectly the first time.
That didn't go well.
But it is MythBusters when the car plows through the barriers
Oh, not another fence. Go, Grant.
Yeah, you'll get it.
and into the fence. But if at first you don't succeed, replace the car, check the alignment, and try again.
Vehicle is rolling. It's
Looks
looking
really good.
Yeah, it's looking nice and straight.
Here we go.
Trigger.
This time the car stayed on course, but the fist triggered too late.
No! No! Oh! All right, put that fence on our tab.
We hit it way in the back, which means we have to fix our timing and hopefully hit the front end of the vehicle.
MythBusters history has shown just how complex it is to hit a target from a height. And as Take 3 reveals,
Trigger.
that's true for a distance of only 20 feet.
So close. close. We're just 1 foot away. The challenge that we have here is that timing and position are both critical. You have to hit X, Y, and Z, all 3 dimensions, perfectly within milliseconds of each other, or else it all goes wrong.
Getting the fist to drop at precisely the right moment is like scoring a bullseye with the dartboard moving at 30 miles per hour. But the MythBusters will find a way.
Red means stop!
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a car that's been punched by Hellboy. But could an infernal impact really flip a car?
Trigger away.
So far, their methodology has failed to flip. So they've got a plan B.
We have 2 trench plates on either side of the runway. In between it is a cable. That is going to be our guide line. It's under tension, and that will hook in to the towing system. Now that's going to guide our vehicle into the crash zone where the fist is.
The new towing rig should keep the SUV on track, while a rejigged car-catching system should protect the fences.
That's it.
That's pretty good.
In other words, it's a setup that should work. But with this myth, the devil's in the details.
3, 2, 1, hit it.
Here that we are in the channel.
The car gets up to 30 miles per hour.
Looks like it's going straight.
And
Look what that fist did to that car.
rather than flipping the lid of the SUV,
That is insane!
they crushed it. But the guys are actually encouraged by this result.
So I'm standing at the impact point where the fist hit the truck, and as you can see, it triggered a little bit late. So we're gonna go back, adjust our trigger time, and then give it another shot.
And with the trigger reset by just 1/10 of a second, it really is now or never.
Talk about recycling here on the show, huh?
Down to their last SUV, this is the final shot at a full-scale flip.
Wires in the slot.
It's
Fist is
going
hanging.
straight. Here comes the car into the fist.
Trigger! Oh!
Nice!
How satisfying was that?
Bullseye. The Fist of Fury finally hammers the hood. But despite hitting the sweet spot right above the bumper in front of the fulcrum, the car didn't even get rear wheel elevation, let alone a somersault.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it had enough force to ground the nose, but it wasn't enough to flip the car over.
I'd actually like to see this in small scale and maybe see some other factors.
Yeah, just to see if the physics are even possible to get a car to flip.
Should be cheaper.
It's probably gonna be easier too.
Yeah, I think we're running out of cars.
Soon enough, the MythBusters will be making rays while the sun shines. They've worked out their aiming system. Now all they need is 500 mirrors, a boat, and a small army of scientists. And at the shop, those 500 mirrors have arrived. Ta-da! Along with 500 bronze mylar sheets.
Ah, that's great. Look at me, I'm all hammered metal.
Not only are the mirrors 3 times the size of their previous attempts, they're also double-sided, so that if the Archimedes-era bronze can't create a flame, hopefully the modern mirrors will.
That's gonna be awesome.
Okay, go.
Crew hijinks aside, it's time for assembly. Ow! But at 3 minutes per mirror, that's 25 hours of building.
Well, that's about 3 minutes.
So they bring in the recruits. With a mirror production line in full swing, Adam and Jamie can turn their attention to the maritime. And at Nelson's Marine, they found the perfect target.
This thing is a lifeboat that was salvaged off of a ship. But when I'm done with it, it's going to be a classic Roman trireme.
It's going to take a lot of camouflage to turn this lifeboat into an ancient mariner. Step 1 is to give it a more aged look.
That ought to do it.
But then it's time to raise the bar and add a mast.
You've done this before?
Yeah.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, we're good.
Jamie!
Hold on. Hold on, we're doing good.
With more knots than a Boy Scout camp, the MythBusters ensure the mast is securely fastened.
Oh, that's solid. You like it?
That's perfect.
Awesome.
The next step is to add a little Roman flavor.
Look into my eye.
Before finally hoisting the target for our mirror militia.
On sale today.
Oh, she rises, blood-red stripes betide ill upon her enemies.
Well, you know, I think our work is done here.
Nicely done.
With the boat seaworthy, it's time to first find a battle-worthy location before trying to rustle up a 500-strong band of brothers.
This is perfect. Our soldiers along the shore here, our enemy hordes coming out there on the boat. We got a location.
The first port of call is to get a leg up on the aiming system.
In order to help our soldiers aim their beams of sunlight right at that boat, we're going to put up a fence using these rebar posts and this mesh all the way down the line of soldiers.
You can see clearly where it is and is not. You know, that totally works.
Hopefully that's all that's required to set that puppy on fire.
With the aiming network in place,
700 feet of fence, all I can think is one thing. Man, I hope this works.
the mirrors arrive with 700 feet of trestle tables to support them.
Now our first line of soldiers will be crouched down like this, aiming their mirrors at the boat. Our second line of soldiers will be resting their mirrors on this bench and aiming over the heads of the front line.
Now all that remains is for Jamie to don his period-correct safety gear.
Bring on the sun.
Adam to get into character.
That's it. Here we go.
And to rustle up that 500-strong, science-hungry horde. The MythBusters finally hit the nail on the head and nailed the hood of the SUV with their fist of fury. But with nothing close to a flip that could be the nail in the coffin for this myth.
In our first test, we were not able to get a car to flip. So we've decided to take this myth and test it in small scale. Now we're gonna be running the same test. However, we're gonna be changing a few variables. We're gonna change the mass of the fist, the speed of the vehicle, and change the center of gravity on the vehicle.
By toying with every combination of these vital variables, they're hoping to find the optimal conditions to result in a small-scale flip. And first, they feel the need to test speed. With a fist that weighs half the weight of the car ready to fall, they're starting with the car at its lowest velocity.
Okay, so we're all set to go. We've got our slow-speed car, which in full scale would be the equivalent of about 30 miles an hour. We've got our fist connected to the quick release with the laser trigger. We're good to go.
All right, this is small scale superhero punch with slow speed car.
All right, here we go. It is flying. I'm gonna have to say that didn't flip.
The slow speed failed to even get the back wheels off the ground. So it's time to up the acceleration. More velocity equals more energy. But will that mean more tilt?
Hopefully that extra momentum will cause the car to flip.
Tori puts his finger to the trigger and they try maximum velocity.
Oh.
That was a direct hit.
Yeah, we're still not getting the flip. I think we need to get some more energy punching down on the car.
This time the back wheels did at least get off the ground, but only by 2 degrees. And they'll need 90 for a flip, so there's a long way to go yet. But will upping the ante on the impact make a difference?
What do you got up there, Byron?
I've got a little over 100% of the weight of the car just slamming down on the hood.
So that's a whole nother car.
Yeah, this should be good.
All right.
The fist may look small, but at 100% the weight of the car, it should pack a powerful punch.
Oh, that was a direct hit.
Yeah, I saw the body flex, but still no flip.
More mass gets them a 4-degree elevation. But this myth is going nowhere fast, so they go for broke.
Now, I thought that weight was kind of crazy, but I do have another weight. I could make this 3 times the weight of the car.
Yeah, that sounds good. Totally.
Going for full tilt, they're dropping 3 times the weight of the car.
Oh.
But instead of a tilt, the weight grinds the car to a halt. So for the next test, they try 200%.
Okay, this might be the magic punch.
Good shot.
Whoa!
No flip.
That nets them the highest rear wheel elevation so far of 15 degrees. But they're 2 parameters down and still miles off a flip. Will tweaking the final variable cause a tumble?
If the mass is down low and far away from the pivot point, it's harder to flip. If you move the mass up, away from the pivot point, suddenly it becomes easier to flip the car over. So we're gonna put some luggage on the top here and see if that helps us out.
It's a tiny SUV camping holiday with 25% of the car's weight in luggage.
All right, so this is it, the final parameters for our final test, and everything is in our favor. But I mean, so far after all these tests that we have done, I think this is asking a lot.
In other words, it's now or never. And it's never. Raising the center of gravity did increase the tilt to 25 degrees, but that's nowhere near enough. Even with the combination of the optimal variables, they're no closer to a flip, which means this is busted.
I'm pretty sure cars weren't meant to flip end over end over end. So even a big giant punch from a superhuman from hell, I don't think is gonna do it.
So why is it that no combination of these variables seems to be making any difference with our results? Well, it all comes down to physics. See, we are applying our force too close to the fulcrum. Imagine that it's like a seesaw with a large weight on one side and you apply weight on the other side, but here's the kicker. Almost on top of the fulcrum. Now, the force that you need to apply to get the weight to lift from here is almost astronomical. But the problem is, if you apply too much force, the lever will break.
The flippin' physics are busting the myth. But that's never stopped the MythBusters before. The MythBusters are testing the presidential theory that more manpower and more mirrors
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That's perfect.
could create a solar death ray.
I expect you guys to figure this out, get to the bottom of this once and for all, and then report back to me.
Well, as long as they can find the manpower.
Now, you may be wondering, where are we going to find 500 Greek soldiers? Here's where. 500 middle and high school students have graciously agreed to be our Greek soldiers for science. It's on.
It certainly is. So first up, the briefing on taking down the enemy.
You guys are going to play Greek soldiers defending their home city of Syracuse from the marauding Roman army under General Marcellus, played by James Franklin Heineman right here. Now, your countryman, the great Greek mathematician, Archimedes, has given you a very novel weapon to defend yourselves, the power of the sun. You are going to be lined up on the water's edge in ranks. Evil Jamie, General Marcellus, will be coming towards you in a boat with a black sun painted on its sail. If you all are able to aim your sunbeams all at the single spot of the black sun on this sail, you're gonna set his boat on fire and send those Romans home. Are you guys with me? I didn't hear you. Are you with me?
I think they're ready.
They're certainly spoiling for a little ship broiling. So it's time to deploy the troops.
This is crazy.
For the best chance of success, their target will be anchored, and they'll aim at the black sun for 2 reasons. Firstly, because just like the small-scale test, we want the beams to meet at a focal point to concentrate the heat. And secondly, because with an ignition point of 410 degrees Fahrenheit, the sail is the most flammable part of the ship.
Supposedly, this myth happened in ancient Syracuse. We're doing it in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, as it happens, they're both at a latitude of about 37 degrees north. The difference is that Syracuse was facing the water to the east, and we're facing the water to the southwest. And that means that Syracuse would have had to have done this in the morning, where we can do it in the afternoon, when it's hotter. and that's a slight advantage.
Come on, let's see what you got. Light my fire.
Looking good.
Added to that, they've got double the number of mirrors at 3 times the size, which means 5 times the solar power of any previous attempt.
I'm getting a sunburn.
With the trireme 400 feet from the shore,
All right, soldiers, are you feeling me? Give me a hooah!
it's time for 500 bronze mirrors to beam down a ray-pocalypse.
In the distance, the enemy ship approaches. To my left and to my right, an army, 500 young men and women strong. With any luck, we will aver this enemy and send them back to their home country. The suspense is totally killing me.
Okay, Greek soldiers. Do you want Marcellus to take your city of Syracuse? Do you want him to own the island of Sicily? No, it's the gateway to the Mediterranean. You've got to aim your sunbeam at that boat now. Get that beam on the center of the sail.
Adam issues the order, and 500 bronze mirrors turn simultaneously to focus their beams on the black sun.
Do you see it on the center of the sail?
Excellent. How do the beams look to you, Captain Marcells?
Well, I don't see any flames on my boat yet, but those mirrors are really intense. It's like a row of flashbulbs going off constantly.
Jamie's being flashed by the mob, but the trireme remains stubbornly unscathed.
Leaning back, you guys look good. You look like you're in good formation.
So Commander Savage rallies the troops, helping them to pinpoint their target.
Yeah, that's it. See that?
But with the bronze 20% less reflective than the modern mirrors, the results aren't lighting any fires.
No fire.
And after 15 minutes of concentrated bronze beams, the thermal image shows that the temperature on the sail has only risen by 45 degrees. So it's time to up the intensity.
Greek soldiers, I need every single one of you to spin your mirrors around 180 degrees and let's get some glass going at this boat. That's it. Now you start to see how easy it is to see your beam, right? Are you feeling mean? Give me a hooah!
Quick as a flash, Adam's 500 have their modern mirrors focused on the black sun. But will they prove more powerful?
Now that's some brightness. You guys have to hold your beam super steady. It's the only thing that'll save your home city. Do you want to save your home city? That's the kind of energy it'll take, except sun's energy. Point it at that boat. That's the spirit, soldiers. I'm Greek, not Scottish. I don't know why I'm talking like that.
500 silvered mirror beams on the sail have already resulted in a huge rise in temperature. They're getting 200 degrees of concentrated heat. But that's not yet enough to ignite the sail.
The intensity I'm seeing from some of these mirrors is just incredible, and yet no sign of fire.
All right, I think you got to start pulling this boat closer to us, okay?
As General Jamie advances on his enemy, Adam realizes his foe is now dangerously close.
Right now, the enemy ship is about 250 feet away.
At this distance, ancient archers would be close enough to start firing.
Keep those mirrors focused. The closer he gets, the hotter he's gonna get. And we may just get some fire. That's it, good.
So, Commander Savage takes one last chance to organize the troops
Flash, flash, flash. I want fire.
and prevent a full-scale Heinemann invasion.
These guys are doing great. We're not getting fire. Yeesh.
Okay, so sad to say, but I think that we've busted the myth as it appears in the movie in small scale.
Well, you guys know what that means. It's time to replicate the results.
Now, normally at this point of the myth, we would replicate it like they did it in the movie, probably with like a nitrogen cannon and a piston to flip the car. But what if we just used the same physics, but changed the design of the car to see if we could get it to flip?
That could be fun, but maybe we could do this in the small scale first, because you saw how many cars we destroyed just replicating the myth.
Are you tired of crashing cars?
Never, but we're running out of them.
Now, we know that this myth is down to levers, but replicating the movie and dropping the weight on the hood just isn't causing the car to flip. The force is applied too close to the fulcrum. But what if we create a lever? we increase the distance of the weight to the fulcrum. That way when we drop the weight, the vehicle should flip end over end. I mean, it should work like a charm.
That's right, science fans. Instead of Hollywood fakery, Tori's devilish idea is to flip this car using physics.
In 3, 2, 1. Oh! Grant, that looked like a flip to me. I mean, it didn't do it exactly like the movie, but...
Dude, I think we can move on from there.
This might work.
It was going.
The lever scored a tilt on the car of over 90 degrees, and it's clear that the physics are working. So after a small-scale proof, it's time to ramp this up and put a massive lever on the SUV's roof.
Oh, yeah. Should be good.
Now this thing is beefy. It's got to be strong because we're going to be dropping 5,000 pounds on the front end of it. If anything's going to make it flip, it's this design. But it's one thing to do it in small scale and another to do it in large scale.
It's quite the engineering challenge, but with 1,100 pounds of steel welded into a giant lever, they're ready to put it to the test.
The old add a huge lever to the front end of a vehicle and drop a giant weight on it to get the car to flip. If I've seen that trick once, I've seen it 1,000 times.
The best case scenario here is that we hit the lever perfectly with our 5,000-pound weight, the car tips right at the tipping point, boom, crashes upside down. I think the worst case scenario here, none of us really want to imagine. If our timing's off, we might hit the weight, smash the car, and have to revisit.
There's a lot riding on this car, and it's not just the weight of the lever. There's only one car, and they've only got one shot to get this right. For once, failure is not an option.
And we have done everything to engineer it in our favor. I think if that weight hits the front end of this vehicle, we're gonna see this thing flip.
I'm a little excited.
I'm a little nervous. There's so much that can go wrong on this.
I'm anxious.
Let's do it.
Okay, this is car somersault, lever car.
All right, final experiment in 3, 2, 1, go.
It's now or never as the lever car is towed towards its destiny, either to be crushed by 5,000 pounds or to be finally flipped by physics.
Still in the channel. Looks like it's going straight.
It does look like it's going
Looks
straight.
like it's going straight.
All right, this is it, this is it!
Bingo! Everything went exactly to plan. The weight triggering at the right moment, dropping onto the very front of the lever and tilting the car. But it was still only a 45-degree dangle. And of course, there was no flip.
Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh, the stars had to align.
Look, it dug into the ground here.
And did you see how high the back end got? I mean, it almost went over.
But the important thing here is that it didn't.
So we tested this myth just like in the movie, yet we couldn't get the car to flip. Then we moved on to the ridiculous. We changed the design of the car, we increased the force of the punch. However, we still were not able to get the car to flip. I really wish it had, but it didn't. So this myth is busted.
You know how the saying goes, give me a big enough lever and I can move the world. And that may be true, provided you have a few things. 1, your lever arm is strong enough. 2, your fulcrum holds up. And 3, you apply enough force. Now in our case, it's our fulcrum that failed because our wheels and suspension crushed, absorbing a lot of the energy. Let's try a bigger car.
Let's try a bigger lever.
Let's try a semi.
Archimedes is supposed to have protected his home city of Syracuse by harnessing the power of the sun to set fire to Roman ships by focusing the sun's rays using polished Greek shields. We tried it using 309 of these, assembled in a circular array, and we weren't able to get fire.
I can't help noticing that it's not on fire. 300 mirrors, it should be on fire.
Then some very clever guys from MIT told us that they had succeeded where we had failed, and we brought them out, and we put together 350 mirrors like this, and we focused these at a boat, and still we got no fire.
Well, it's sizzling and cracking pretty good. I don't see any fire yet.
This time, we've got 500 of these, 50% more than we've ever tried before, and 500 soldiers to hold them and actively aim them at our enemy ship captained by Jamie, aka General Marcellus. If there ever was a test to determine that polished shields could be an effective weapon of war, this is that test.
This is that test. And with the enemy now only 100 feet away, it's the last chance for Adam and his army to get their solar ray to work.
All right, soldiers, you're doing a fantastic job. I'd like everyone to take their mirrors off the target briefly and take a deep breath with me. Inhale. Exhale. On the count of 3, I want you all to aim your beams at that black sun and keep them as steady as possible. Are you ready? We are doing this for Syracuse. In 3, 2, 1. Aim on that black sun. Hold it steady. Find your beam. Keep it centered on that sail. That's it. That's twice as bright as before.
Twice as bright. But to ignite the sail, the focal point will have to reach 410 degrees Fahrenheit. And with the black sun at 230 degrees, that's a long way off.
Look, he's taunting you. We are giving this every possible effort. This is the last chance we have to catch this thing on fire. Oh! Oh no, he's lobbing flaming tennis balls at us. Keep those mirrors on the sail. Ooh, he just took out one of your great cameramen. Are you gonna stand for that? Keep those mirrors focused on the sail.
The tennis balls are flying, and the beams are focused on the sail. But while 280 degrees is impressive, it's still 130 off a sail ignition.
If this was a real war, you just lost, because I got a whole bunch of you guys, and you didn't get one of me.
I think you're right. Why don't you gear down and come on in? I think we got to call this one.
Yep, after over an hour of beaming the sun's rays onto the boat, our 500 soldiers have earned themselves an honorable discharge.
1, 2, 3. You hear that?
I was actually kind of disappointed we didn't set the boat on fire. We've got plenty of sun, we got plenty of mirrors to do the trick. But here's the thing. MythBusters is about experimentation. It's not about demonstration. And when I was in the middle of this experiment out on that boat with all those mirrors shining in my face, I realized something really important. And that is that they were actually quite distracting and blinding, even painful. And that right there may be the grain of truth at the heart of this myth. Good old Archimedes may not have come up with this trick in order to set a ship on fire, but rather to distract and disorient invading armies. And that says something really important about the nature of experimentation. When we experiment, when we try things and we fail, we start to ask why. And that's when we learn. Let's go tell POTUS.
Okay.
So, how'd it go, guys?
Well, it was an awful lot of work, but in the end, the myth was
busted.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for everything you do.
Thanks.
Really enjoyed it.